Now, speaking of Channel 2, they're running a survey at the moment and about 50,000 people have replied. OK, it's a lot of people, but country of 25 million, come on. But there is something worth extrapolating here, which is the different attitudes different ages have to Australia. Have a look at this. When you have a look at the far left of this, that's the number of people who strongly agree that Australia is the best place in the world. Light green are those who somewhat agree, and basically everyone from 18 through to 75, the majority, even if it's just, but the majority are in that category. But have a look at the difference, where there is a huge number of people 18 to 24. The younger you get, the less you believe that Australia is the greatest country in the world. And funnily enough, the more life you live, the more places you see, the more things that you see come and go across the front page of the newspaper and here on the telly, let alone the travels that you've gone or the people that you meet, you start to conclude, yeah, this is the greatest place on earth. Now, I have no doubt if the same thing was done in Ireland, Italy, Spain, Ghana or anywhere else, local populations would always believe that their own country is the best. But what does it say to you that people who are growing up in the best form of Australia, the best modernity of Australia, the most well-funded schools, the most emotionally coddled people in a very, very long time, 18 to 24-year-olds don't hear no for an answer very much, yet still they believe that this joint is not the greatest in the world?
Yeah, well, it goes down to the analogy that the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Now, I could run that analogy all sorts of ways today, having dealt with a colicky horse. He thought the grass was greener on the other side of the fence, and I've had vets out dealing with colic all afternoon. So, I mean, you know, really it probably was better back in his own paddock. But, and I think that's the issue here. Sometimes you need to go and sample things around the world and say, you know what, Paris looks like a great place. I'd prefer to live in Sydney. And I think you develop those sort of national pride. But I think it does also highlight an even bigger issue that we do see with some of these younger people, Paul. And it is around some of the rhetoric when you hear some of the greeny elements of things, people saying, oh, well, I'm not going to have children because if I don't have children, you know, then my children won't be a burden on the economy or a burden on the environment. I mean, there's a whole lot of really dangerous rhetoric that's out there that's actually being pumped into our young people. Sure, they might be young and innocent and naive, but I think there's also a way that the way we speak to them and the way they're led to believe that we are racist, we are...
Correct.
We are all of these things, and we're actually not those things. There are a whole raft of other cultures that are, in fact, a lot more racist than most Australians, that are a lot more xenophobic, that are a lot more misogynist, a lot more all of these things. And until you actually turn down the iPod, the iPhone, put down the device and actually go and meet some of these people and investigate these cultures and these countries for yourself, then you can probably make a more informed decision. Yeah, I mean, Chris, there's always a debate in American politics about whether American exceptionalism is real or not, and there was sort of the Bush worldview that said, yes, America is exceptional, and there was the Obama view, which is, well, every country thinks that it's exceptional, and I get it. If the same poll was in New Zealand, New Zealanders would say it's the best place in the world, but this is a poll of our people and our young people. What does it tell you? That those that have lived a life know that this is the best joint in the world, but those who haven't, and those who like to think that, well, either the grass is always greener or, dare I say, woker over the fence, that they don't like the joint as much.
Well, I think it shows that it is the best place on earth, doesn't it? That those with the wisdom and the knowledge of a life lived know that. I think what's interesting is also that this is a survey of an ABC audience, and I wonder whether there's an element of the news, the type of spin on the news that that young people are getting through those ABC News websites. Have a bit of shading on that. So yeah, I mean, it's not that surprising if you haven't actually gone and lived a life and gone to these places overseas that you think that, as we keep saying, the grass is green. I'm sorry, I don't have a horse anecdote. I was trying to think of one, but I'm struggling.
It's a good point. But also, I mean, anyway. It is this thing too. You're right about the audience of which it comes from. Remember, their youth radio station moves the day that they count down Australian music because they deem it to be offensive to Indigenous people. I mean, if that's one of your introductions to information through pop culture, well, you're off to a bad start. You really are.